Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. Thanks so much for joining us this week. We are attempting to take a step back from our laser focus on elections and candidates. We started bringing you interviews with candidates as far back as April. We had Adam Moore and Aaron Marshall joining us on Kernels of Truth, and we've been kind of exclusively focused on the election since August. So I'd say it's a fine time to take a step back, take a breath, bring you some other change makers in our bluegrass community. This week, we are going to be bringing you a few developing stories from the Commonwealth. Then we're thrilled to be joined by Eric Scott Sutherland, a holler poet, the author of 5 collections of poetry, and he'll be bringing us some selections from his most recent work, Earth is My Church. So a little bit different, a little bit of a different show for you this week. But first, are you ready to help us create a more compassionate Commonwealth? It is clear that we're going to need long-term power building to create better policies and outcomes in Kentucky. We hope you'll support Progress Kentucky in our campaign to do that and make it happen. If you like, appreciate, or just tolerate the show, I want to let you know that our tech platform that we use to bring you this show every week has increased its monthly fee by about $20. So we really could use a new monthly donor or two to help us cover that cost. I am imploring you, impeaching upon you. Is that right? That's probably not right. To make a contribution right now via a secure online website, Act Blue to turn Kentucky purple. $10, $20, $200. It all adds up, and I promise we will put it all to good use. So, but yeah, thanks for considering that. Now let's check in with our hosts. We'll see. Let us know who you are, where you are, what are you protesting today? Maybe you're not protesting. Maybe you're just bone tired of protesting. You're storing up for some protesting later on. You there on the internet, let us know what you are thinking about these days as well. If you've got something, a slogan on your sign, what does it say? Put it in the chat. We can put it on the screen. I'm Aaron. I'm coming to you from Childsburg, a beautiful deed-restricted community in Lexington. My sign says, warning to the GOP, we are breathing, not sleeping. Don't worry, we are still awake. Still woke, really, if you think about it. All right, Chris, are you there?
I am. This is Chris Priest. I'm coming to you from Berea, Kentucky. Definitely not protesting anything. I'm too tired. And you said there was something about an election. When did that happen? I don't know. What happened?
Election? What?
Yeah. What was that?
I think you should know. You were on a ballot, I believe, is what I recall.
We don't need to mention that part. 196 votes short.
196 votes, man.
I got close, darn close. But yeah, so just trying to hang low and see how all this stuff plays out. And it's good to pull back from the election stuff a little bit because there's other wonderful things happening all around Kentucky, and we should take the opportunity to let those people shine.
Yeah. I like that. And hey man, we're cruising right into the holiday season. Why sully your celebrations with some over obsessive focus on politics right now and campaigns and the outcomes. Well, we'll get to that. We'll have time, plenty of time to do that. Let's take a moment, take a breath, look up. All right, that's awesome. No sign for Chris. I get it. And then I think we have another co-host who has joined us. The lovely lady, Kimberly Cecil Jones. How are you doing? You and your garbage internet. How are you?
Turn my camera off again. My goodness,
man.
Can you all hear me? Oh my God. Okay. I don't even have my AKA thing up there. Oh, Lord. Well, anyway, hi, everybody. Hi. Yes, I'm coming to you live from the rainy city of Louisville, Kentucky. coming out of the car into my home, it was flooded. Okay. So I might be a little flustered somewhat, but I'm here. And my protest sign today, and I'm gonna piggyback on Chris because he's a smart guy. And I'm just gonna say, I know it hurts that our vice president, Kamala Harris, did not win my soror. I know it hurts very, very deeply. But let's take a moment to remember what she said. She said, do not give up. We're not going to look back. We're going to be looking forward, and we are not going to give up. This thing is not over yet. It ain't over till it's over.
What are you saying? We're going to like rush the Capitol on January 5th or something? Is that what you're saying?
Okay, you all can go ahead on and do that. But because I have this beautiful tanned skin, 365, 24/7, you'll see a whole lot of gunshots picking us off one by one by one.
What do you say? Like, I think that's it's wise that we respect the elections. And we weren't going to talk about this, but why? What are you saying? It's not over till it's over. Like, what do you mean it's not over till it's over? What does that
What
mean?
I mean is, it seems like it's very dismal right now. It seems incomprehensible right now. I hope everybody has written down what their life is like right now and the things that they hold true to themselves. I did this back in 2000. What was it? 2016 or whatever. And I did that because a young lady, I forgot her name, she was from over the seas, and her country had turned into an authoritarian type of country. So her advice to Americans back at that time when Trump allegedly was our president, she said, make sure that you write down everything, how your life is today. Write down everything that is important to you. Nothing is too minute. Make sure you write it all down because you want to refer to it from time to time so you don't get caught up. Because this is what supposedly, allegedly, that they want to do. But I'm going to believe in my higher power, and I'm going to continue to pray and get my vibrations and my frequency up so that possibly it will not be as bad as we think. So it's not over yet. The election may be over, but it's not over to continuously fight for the things that we love, fight for our children, grandchildren that we don't have yet, and our neighbors and our family members. It's not too late to continue to fight, but make sure that you all write all of that down. I did that and I looked at it again. I looked at it again right before the election, and you would be so surprised at how things have changed dramatically from where they were in 2016.
Yeah, we have, women do not have a right to an abortion. That's one thing. Yeah, I buy that, like that it's not over. Like, of course, our fight for, for civil liberties, our fight for, justice, our fight for freedom, like that's never over, right? And anyone who thinks like a Democratic president's going to just bring that to you, I think you're being misled, right? We always have to, whether they're on our side kind of or not, you always have to push for change. But yeah.
Exactly. And one more point, because I know we have to move on, but one more point that I really would like for our listeners and viewers to really put into their hearts. There's still a chance with Lolita James and Fannie Willis that homeboy, everybody's favorite enemy, may have some more charges coming to him. He's not president yet.
Get all that Biden money out the door, get all your charges filed as quickly as possible, and bring your prosecution immediately. Yeah, lots of things to do in a very short window of time, I suppose. All right, but yeah, we're a Kentucky podcast, Kentucky live stream. So we're going to focus on Kentucky. So we got a couple Kentucky stories, but Chris, is there anything you want to add before we move into that?
Yeah, so like piggybacking on what Kimberly was saying, like now is a wonderful time, an urgent time for you to, build your community of people if you haven't already. Like, things when times get hard, you need a good, community of people to help support you. And typically, I think a lot of folks associate that with, people physically near you, family members that may be near you. And then some people who aren't maybe a part of, maybe close to you, but you could call um, and for help, or just have a listening ear or whatever. But it's very important to have that community of people.
Yeah, and I hope you consider Progress Kentucky part of your extended community of people who are there for you and who have your back for sure. Unless you're just some crazy person that's stumbled across our internet, but yeah, we can't really control who's watching. But I think mostly the people, I know most of the people, I think, and they're great folks and doing this stuff for important reasons for sure. And I will say this, I think the kind of constructive moment we're in, where people do want to look at what went wrong or what you can do better, and we're going to get at a couple of stories about that in a minute. I think that's healthy, right? We should analyze where we are and how we got here and what we need to do differently. So Chris, I think we'll get to news of the week, and you've got actually the first story that really does kind of lay into that important that important processing what's going on.
Yeah, so Uncle Andy wrote a piece that is very important. So he was, calling out to all Democrats across the nation to kind of step back and think about where we are and how to move forward. And I think a lot of us are thinking that. And so he just wrote it down and put it in some very nice words. And also wanted to point out some of his achievements, that we are a very red state in terms, that Trump won this state 30 plus points. And yet Andy won it by 5 a year ago. So, he's able to reach across the aisle and really talk to folks who vote for Trump, who typically vote red, but see him as a kind, compassionate, caring person that he is, and are willing to extend a vote to him because of that. And I think that is very important, that we have candidates who are kind, compassionate, and really care, and they're able to put that forward. There are people who are those things but have a hard time communicating it. And and on top of that, it's a lot about making sure that you are focused on the issues that matter to those people. So, some people have a very long commute to their job. What are the roads like? Are the roads in good condition? So, talk about legislation that you could do to help better those roads or bridges or what have you. Food prices have skyrocketed fairly recently. And so, talking about how you could try to lower food costs or make it more accessible. A lot of Kentucky is very rural and have accessibility issues to medicine or various other things. And so talking about how you can remove some of those barriers to those people and really break it down and look at their day-to-day life and what struggles they have, and try to remove some of those barriers. And Andy went through this of like, you've got to really hone in on what those issues are and talk to the people where they're at. This should come to no surprise, but sometimes, I think we get away from that, especially with all the national narratives of different things. And like a lot of the Trump ads or far right ads would talk about Harris just being concerned about transgender surgeries, where she, in her actual campaign, I don't think one time mentioned it in any of the coverage that I saw, or articles that I read about her running and her speeches. But that was the narrative that they created against her, and so she's got to take that and push back on it. Now she did push back, and I think the narrative about immigration, they pushed that pretty hard. But narrative around the economy, which I think a lot of people are thinking about, because again, food prices are high, and a lot of other things have gone up. That there's gains that need to be made in that area. What do you all think?
Yeah, I don't think he's wrong. I will say, I think in terms of this op-ed in the New York Times telling, Democrats how we can win, right? Like, if you look at what he said they should do, like, I think we did all that. I think if you look at what the Biden administration actually accomplished through the bipartisan infrastructure law, through the Inflation Reduction Act, like, it really did address a lot of these kind of like cost issues that people care about. Bringing down the price of Medicaid or drugs, right? Things like building safer bridges, right? If I recall, there was a big press event with Biden and Andy at the Brent Spence Bridge, along with Mitch McConnell, because their bipartisan infrastructure law had actually found the resources, created the resources to fix the Brent Spence Bridge, right? Like, so, like, that stuff was being done. I kind of feel like this op-ed is a little bit more of a, hey, listen to me, I'm building my brand because I want to make sure that you don't forget who I am, because I will be coming back to you in 3 years or so, and encourage you to think about me as a potential, president. So, like, I don't dispute the general like game plan. I will dispute that it was not being done. This is not like new ideas. It's stuff that was being done. It's like just trying to break through and tell people what actually is happening is like the hardest thing, because elections are decided by this like little narrow margin of people that are absolutely tuned out and had no clue the Brent Spence Bridge was going to be expanded or whatever, right? Like, so it sucks that this is the way we make these decisions, because you're trying to motivate a pool of voters that are like not engaged and aren't paying attention to like traditional channels. And like, that anti-trans ad was like perfect, because it captured this kind of they're against you, therefore these sucking up your tax dollars to do these things you don't understand and wouldn't ever support, right? Meanwhile they spent 200 times more on the ad than was ever spent on trans surgery for people in prison, right? Like, it's like insane, but whatever. I know we were going to talk about the election. What are we doing here? I feel like we're talking about the election. Kimberly, you got any thoughts about Andy's missive?
Whatever Andy says, I'm on board. That's all everybody needs to know. I'm on board with Andy.
Well,
he says everybody is. He said, if everybody is ducks, I'm going to be like, you know what? We have been quacking like ducks a little bit. Whatever Andy says, I'm down with it.
And, Bernie came out with a statement right after the election talking about how Democrats have moved away from working people and the focus on working people. And, there's also that bit as well.
Yeah, and again, I don't think, I think the perception is that Democrats have moved away from working people. Again, I will put the Biden administration actual like accomplishments up against like whatever Trump wishes he could get done, which he will get none of it, probably just the worst things done, right? In terms of what's better for working people, like Biden delivered for working people. So, Bernie, you could have like said some of that too, right? Because Bernie also said like that, Biden was like the best president since FDR in terms of delivering for people, right? Like, that was his earlier statement. Then his like post-election statement, it's like, got to get out there and tell everyone what was wrong, right? Like, like it just didn't break through. People just like couldn't figure out that that's what had happened. I don't know.
So then part of our, what we do here is we need to focus more on the accomplishments and mention them as often as we possibly can, because we forget about them. They'll do something great and it'll be on the news for a week or maybe two, and then it's gone, and
or maybe
it doesn't come back into our consciousness ever, rarely ever again. And so, when we do have wins, maybe we need to keep a win tracker, and have that tallied up there as we go through, wins for Andy, and or maybe not be that partisan, but just wins in general.
Well, I do think we do a decent job of underscoring some of the things. Like, we've like celebrated the IRA a number of times, the Inflation Reduction Act, and what it's done for like energy production and clean jobs, clean energy jobs in Kentucky. But yeah, I mean, I don't know that we've got the megaphone that's we are not the Joe Rogan of the left. I know that. All right, we have another story we're going to do.
Excuse me.
Certainly.
This misogyny is starting already. He's not even in office yet. Because I got in trouble for bringing up, national news. But the man, no, I'm just playing with you. I just want to say this. We don't even have to keep.
I indicted all of us. I indicted all of us for bringing that up. Just to be clear.
You cannot out talk me, Aaron. You know this. I got that on lockdown. So no, we do not even have to keep a tracker on Andy. Everything that Andy does is wonderful and great. I want somebody to tell me something that he did that was negative. I'll wait. Exactly. I just had to,
all his vetoes have been overridden. How about that?
I'm trying to be on his presidential campaign. You all just
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. All right, we'll edit that part out so people don't know.
No, what? It's true. I'm not lying though. I'm telling the truth.
I don't think you're lying. I just don't. Do you want to tell them that? Like, I don't know. You wanted to come from an authentic place, a place of just whoa. All right, so I want to move on to the next story because it is actually it's a Kentucky story. It is about, and it comes to us from the Lexington Herald Leader, that we now have another lawsuit against the state's like near total ban on abortions. This is phenomenal. A pregnant woman from Kentucky. She's from Louisville, I believe. She's about 7 weeks pregnant, and she's seeking to overturn our pair of state laws that took effect after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade a couple years back. That 6-week ban on abortion and the trigger law. So really horrific what is going on. And I've beaten this horse a number of times, right? Like, we as voters came out 2 years ago and said very clearly we want a constitutional right to an abortion in the state constitution of Kentucky, right? Like, they gave you a choice. Like, would you like to remove any protection of abortion in the state constitution? And voters said, no, we would like there to be protection for abortion in the state constitution. That did not matter because all the people that are in charge of interpreting that said, oh yeah, no, no. So now we got somebody challenging that. I think this is awesome that the kind of will of the voters is another legal shot. The problem is the Supreme Court had a horrible ruling, I think, on standing about, who could sue over abortion. So now this woman, I believe it's an ACLU lawsuit, giving this woman the pseudonym of Mary Poe. But I think she should have standing. I think she's filing this as a class action so other people can actually join the lawsuit as well, people who find themselves in that same situation, which maybe means it's like a kind of moving target. So if they don't decide by the time she's, whether she has to give birth or what goes out of state, to get the decision, to activate her decision, I think it's really an important step. And I think, as Chris pointed out in our kind of pre-show meeting, like, we have a new Supreme Court justice now who has been elected, who, I had a conversation with her and I know that she's pro-choice. So, I think that could help things out for sure. So, we will see what happens with this suit. We know that, Russell Coleman, the AG, is going to zealously fight this. Because he sees the two, anti-abortion laws in Kentucky as paramount, ignoring the will of the voters I just mentioned. So this is going to be something we'll need to keep an eye on. But I was very happy to see this lawsuit being brought. Chris or Kim? Kim? Hey. We got a little mute problem. You're not. Yeah.
I'm here. I'm getting rid of my T-Mobile internet. It's crap. I think she's doing the right thing. We need to speak up and speak out about everything. Whenever it happens, not waiting, being strong enough to be on the right side of history. And I feel that, we've got Frankfurt full of, I won't even call them GOP or Republicans anymore. There's a whole new party that has come about called the Trump Party, the MAGAs.
Mm-hmm.
And we know what they're trying to do, but also people need to realize what we do, like this brave woman. Changes need to be made, okay? And they need to happen now.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, I think this is a great lawsuit, and I'm excited to see it happen.
Yes.
See it brought. Chris?
Yeah. So, my wife is pregnant, and we're going to have a girl this next time. And, like, it's hard thinking about living in a state where my wife's life could be threatened because, we're having, starting a family or building our family. And then my daughter, will not have access to or potentially not have access to abortion. And, unless you have means to go elsewhere and do that, which, I have full faith that we would figure it out and do what's necessary, but not everybody else has those means. And that it's terrifying to think about that is a very potential problem that we could have. And I know a lot of other people are also in that same boat. So seeing this legislation, or not legislation, this lawsuit it makes me hopeful that we can have some more common sense laws.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we got the first ever woman, Supreme Court. What do they call it? The leader of the Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court, Chief Justice, and then with Pamela Goodwine, recently added to the court or just added to the court. I don't know. I think there's a vacancy, but maybe not. I don't know how it happens if she gets in January or something like that. Probably, but yeah, I think hopeful signs for sure. All right, so that's the news of the week. There was one other one that we put in the chat. It was one other opinion piece on what the Kentucky Democrats need to do better. It was written by a lobbyist. If you want to look at it, it's I don't know. I'm glad he shared his views about what the Kentucky Democrats need to do better. He said that he wrote a similar op-ed years ago, and he got a bunch of comments. But then the Democrats didn't change anything. So he's like, well, I better write another op-ed. I'm like, well, actually, if you want to actually bring about change in an institution, writing an op-ed is probably, the bare minimum if you want to actually influence that institution. So at any rate, I do think that, this is a good time to reflect generally on where we are and where we need to go. I welcome folks to join Progress Kentucky. We have a very active Facebook group that has a chat that's very much about this right now. There's a lot of folks processing what's happening and weighing in with their ideas. So, if folks want to, kind of vent their spleen in this space or have good constructive ideas, I really welcome good constructive ideas and not just angry, sour grapes. Because, we're in a tough spot, but the only way we change where we are is if, we actively do things. Just griping is not necessarily as valuable as you might think it is. What's the work you're going to do, right? What's the time and energy you're going to put into it, and what institution can you build to build that power? So we welcome your engagement at Progress Kentucky for sure. That's why we started this thing. But we know we've got a long way to go, but we welcome more hands to make light work, right? Maybe not ever light. It will never be light work. We desperately need more hands. All right. So sorry about that little bit of a detour. Now we're going to bring on our guests. Very, very excited about this. Super excited about this for a number of reasons. But, we are honored to be joined this evening by Eric Scott Sutherland. Eric is a Pushcart Prize nominee. He is the poet laureate of Al's Bar and the creative force behind the Holler Poets series, the long-running Holler Poets series. And as somebody who puts together a weekly endeavor, it's not work. Eric is a member of the Pine Mountain Collective, Urban Forest Initiative, and founding board member of Kentucky Writers and Artists for Reforestation, or KWAR. Earth is My Church is his 5th book of poetry. A native Kentuckian, he makes his home in the heart of Lexington, Kentucky, where we are proud to have him serving as urban forester for our fine city. Welcome, Eric.
Hey.
Hey.
Good to see you.
Yeah, very good to see you as well. I'm going to take a moment of privilege here because it's my show and I get to do that. So Eric and I go way, 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 way back. I'm going to just like reveal it all. We were like right out of school. We were kids working to change the world. We were part of this field training program called Green Corps. We were both working to save the environment. So we spent a few like hot and humid weeks in Boston learning how to do that. Then we went up to Maine to like do a little bit of work on the North Woods of Maine, protecting those woods. So it's so funny to like, be back and interacting again and, hearing the cool stuff that you're up to. But
I had a lot more hair. I had a lot more hair back then.
You had more hair. And I had more like, hemp chokers. And
you had a really nice hemp choker. It was really boss. Yeah.
I need to see a picture of this.
I'm not shocked though that Eric, poetry is happening for you. I remember, sitting on a stoop and singing along to some Neil Young, songs there in Boston. Yep. Yeah, it was a great time. We drank a lot of IPAs. I also recall.
Yeah.
Harpoon IPA in Boston Stalwart.
Yeah.
All right. So, but now you're here. You're doing really cool stuff. You are, I got to ask, like, you were the second poet laureate that we have had on this show. The first one was for the state of Kentucky, Silas House. He's been on here a couple times.
He's a good friend.
And I'm not sure, how do you get to be a poet laureate of anything? Is there like a voting process? Did I miss my chance to weigh in? If I was a regular at Al's Bar, could I have voted for this, or how did this happen?
No. So that was, I still find that one of my greatest honors. The people that owned it at the time, who currently own Stella's Kentucky Deli, if you've been there, Lester and Almaine Miller, really great people. The genesis of, Holler Poets came about by me and a friend sitting at that bar one night facing the 5th anniversary of the Iraq invasion in 2008, and just saying, just like you guys, we wanted to do something. And we put together this thing called Poets for Peace, and got Jane Gentry Vance, who was the poet laureate of Kentucky at the time, on board, and about 10 other really amazing writers and some bands. And we asked Al's, hey, can we come down on this Sunday night to speak out against the war? And if you remember, in 2008, we were in the Bush years, and there was a lot of silence about what our country was up to and what we were doing. So people were like, yeah. So we put this together in about 24 hours. The event comes, and I mean, it was, people were falling out the doors, and it was like, you could just feel folks were ready to hear people express themselves, and they were ready to experience that, and kind of throw that shell of silence off. And so that happened. And then Lester Miller, who owns it, came up afterwards, is like, man, this is exactly what I want happening in my establishment. You want to do it again? And I was like, well, not next month, but give me 2 months. And so I had used the moniker Holler, just kind of doing some grassroots stuff for a while. And so I just decided to call it Holler Poet Series. And in May of that year, 2 months later, after that March event, we launched it, and we did it for 100 months in a row. I think it was the second or third anniversary show. Lester kind of came out on stage and surprised me and had an official proclamation that was printed at the King Library Press, and so it's all nice hand lettered. And it was a proclamation, and he proclaimed me Al's Bar. And I used to have it hanging on the wall behind the stage, which was really a great honor. It was cool. But I think you get those things by doing the work. I think Silas House, who's done a lot of great work, not only for writers but for people in the state and beyond. And so I think that when you get those kinds of recognitions, and I laugh, people laugh when they hear that in my bio, yeah, you're the poet laureate at a bar, but it shows that people appreciate the work you've done. And what Holler Poets it was a community, and we did it for 100 months straight, almost 9 years. And, had a packed house every month, and it was a lot of work, but it also gave voice to so many people and their experiences, which to me was always the most important part of it. As you know me, Aaron, for a long time, really believe in the power of free expression. And whether you're a well-crafted poet, a published poet, or just somebody who felt moved to get up on stage. And we had lots of those kind of moments where people confessed things that had happened to them and just fears and worries. And that was always very, very special, moving part of the event. And it built a community of expression and tolerance and welcome. And so for that, I was very proud of what we did there.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And, the cool thing about Holler Poets, I missed it. I was not, here yet. But I saw you can still around town, you can see the very cool, handbills, that are still saved on, walls of establishments. I think 3rd Street stuff and maybe West 6, you can still see some of them. They're just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous and beautifully printed and really evocative of a very cool moment. Yeah. I mean, to me, it's always about bringing all the pieces together. So it was always about, I hooked up with John Lackey of Homegrown Press immediately and asked him to do the visual art. And he was like, yeah, man, this is great. And so from the beginning, we just had really iconic art. And that became, as we've seen in a lot of political movements throughout history, you have the art, the power of the image, and that sort of engagement brings a different realm. It draws people in a certain way. And so the artwork, Pat, she's got the bathrooms at 3rd Street stuff, decoupaged. So that's always funny. But I was in the bathroom at 3rd Street. I saw your name on the wall. It's kind of fun. But it was a good time and missed those days on some level. But it's funny. You said you weren't going to talk about politics. I said, there's no way Aaron Files is having a show where he doesn't talk about politics. But there's a lot of good things to think about. And I think we're all of us who are disappointed about a lot of the results. There's a lot of things that we need to be thinking about how we can think outside the box, be creative, and draw those common threads together and show people who's actually trying to make a difference in their lives and not just falling for, the lies and the misinformation. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think it does require kind of creative organizing, right? And so at your core, clearly, Eric, you've got a lot of organizers still in you. I don't know if you put together your phone rap and if you had your list of names that you're calling through to get them there, but the stuff we learned decades ago in Boston, it's still still works on a lot of levels. All right, so Chris or Kim, any questions for Eric?
So what moving all around with Aaron all over the place, what got you to settle in Lexington to live?
So I'm from Shelbyville originally, which is town right outside of Louisville, Kentucky, which Kimberly probably is familiar with, Shelbyville. And I went to UK, did my undergraduate work here. So it was sort of like home, even though back in that time when Aaron and I met, I was looking to get out of here, quite frankly. Young, angst ridden, looking for the greener pasture, those kinds of things. I think being out organizing outside of home made me realize that there was a lot of stuff going on here that needed help. And so, I don't know. It's kind of like, some people leave home and they come back decades later, and some come back sooner than that. And I ended up back in Lexington and got involved with Kentucky Heartwood and Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, and started organizing to stop logging on the Daniel Boone Forest, and really found kind of purpose in that, like the woods that I knew and the places I loved. I felt really attached to it. Aaron said we were working in Maine, and it was great because Maine has a lot of really interesting people, and we got to stand in the streets and canvas and talk to everyday people. And you're up there working on helping them protect their woods. And so it just, you like to do that, and you want to help people wherever you can, but it also, you're like, man, there's woods I want to save at home too. So, I ended up back in Lexington, and, family, friends in the region, and just sort of ended up here, and then sort of started building my career, and, the writing life took off, and Kentucky's a very literary place, and Lexington is kind of an epicenter of that. And so falling in with that crew, and it just, synergy, things just started happening. And it was like, okay, it's a pretty good place to be. And Lexington changed a lot from 1996 until now. It's a much more habitable place, for people that are like me, I guess.
Yeah. Do you know Lauren Kellmeyer? She's a part of.
Yes, I do. I don't know her well. I was approached to consider joining that board with Heartwood, and that didn't end up working out because I just had a lot of irons in the fire. But I love that organization. I just saw Chris Schimmeler the other day, and I don't know if y'all had a chance to speak with her, but she was the director when I got involved, and really kind of changed my life in a very positive way. In fact, I think I met her, Aaron, before Green Corps and all that, because she was doing a lot of heavy lifting by herself, forest watching and that kind of thing.
We have not had Heartwood on we did have Heartwood on, but I feel like it's probably been a couple of years since we've checked in with them. So I know they still are.
They're doing that. They're doing that good work. They're doing that good work. That goes
doing the Forest Service. Always need to sue the Forest Service.
Right. I see Grogu in your background. Do you have any good Star Wars poems?
I don't really write about Star Wars.
Fan fiction, man. I tell you what, like that fan fiction, that can be lucrative, I think. I don't know.
When I'm ready to sell out, I guess I'll do that.
You could have one about the Ewoks and Endor.
Ewoks and Endor.
The Forest Moon of Endor. I mean, we're all looking for the Forest Moon of Endor, I'll tell you. I wasn't a fan. I wasn't a band years ago called Lando Calrissian, which is hilarious.
Wait, what?
Awesome.
Until Disney.
Lando and the Luddites.
Lando and the Luddites. I love that. Hey, Kimberly, you have any questions for Eric?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do. I have lots of things to say. First of all, I just want to say that I really admire poetry. Poetry really speaks to me. And the first poet that I ever fell in love with was Maya Angelou. And through her poetry, she changed the narrative of the world.
Absolutely.
And I read a little bit of your work. And Eric, I'm like, oh my God, he looks so familiar to me. I have seen you before on some type of show or something. I have,
You've seen me
but I
around.
just want
You've
to
probably
let you
seen me.
know, huh?
You've probably seen me at events and stuff like that. I've been around.
Okay. Okay. Um, but for me, poetry means just more than reading the words. It shows me
Mhm.
the heart of the author of the poetry. I
Yes.
used to want to be a poet, but life and circumstances, I didn't get a chance to do that. But on the things that I felt about, either I was listening to Prince, listening to his albums, I could relate, or I was reading all kinds of poetry. And I really, really respect the craft. I really respect your words, pen to paper. I feel like I totally know your heart, and your heart is good. And the question I have is for our young people that may be looking or listening, or maybe their parents might tell them. I know a lot of times poetry is rap, so to speak. Rap is poetry, right?
Yeah.
What would
Absolutely.
a young person do that has that innate gift to write poetry? How do they start? How do they start being known, seen? What do they need to do?
So, I think the opportunities these days there's a lot more opportunities for young folks in that situation. Here in Lexington, there's a teen howl poetry series, which is for teenagers, and it's really cool. They've really built a cool community of young writers. Um, we also have the Carnegie Center for Literacy and Learning that has a lot of programming like that. I would encourage young folks wherever you are, um, put pen to paper. If that's what moves you, you don't necessarily need someone to justify that. Um, I think you find mentors in your community. Um, go to open mics, look around your town and find where there are events happening. Even if it's underage, you might be able to try to find an all ages one. Show up, listen, introduce yourself. Um, Poetry, in my experience, has been a story of community building and finding that community. When I first started writing for myself, and then I started finding like-minded people, we kind of relied on each other to hold each other up. So you share work. You encourage each other to express ourselves, and so for young people, I say do it. Number one, just you don't need all you need is something to write with, and it's something to write on. It's a really inexpensive way to pursue your art. And I also know that here in Lexington, we've got a lot of hip hop artists. I grew up in I'm old enough that all that early hip hop music really influenced me. um, in fact, reading lyrics on record albums was one of my first avenues to poetry. So, you know, it's there, and there are artists all over Kentucky, hip hop artists, writers, and I think that most of them are really good hearted people, and they're always interested in mentoring the youth because we all realize that the future is in their hands.
Exactly. Just really quick, because I know Aaron wants to say something. I can tell,
Yeah.
we're brother and sister, and I can see it on his face.
He's
But
champing.
but your reply was very similar to a good friend of mine, who is a poet, Hannah Drake. Do you know her?
Okay. I don't think I know her.
You don't know Hannah Drake? Oh my God. So
I
I'm
don't think so.
sure that she's about to produce a collection because of these elections and things of this nature. Is that
Okay.
something that possibly that you're going to do in the future as well? Put your pen to paper as far as um, the election, not only just here in Kentucky, but, just as a collective? Is that something that you've been thinking about doing, or you have made it in your mind that you will?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've got lots of writing about what's been going on. I mean, my first book that was published outside of me doing it on my own, because like self-publishing was a big thing back in when I started doing this, and like the community of writers I was with, we were all kind of self-publishing our work. Was called Incommunicado, and it was a reaction to the Bush administration years, and it's all about war and our role in it and kind of the vision of America. I've written a lot of stuff about who. I've got there's a poem in this book, Earth is My Church, that part of it is set in Frankfurt on the Capitol Bridge, and that was during the Bevin administration. I feel like all things are political. One thing I have found, I've got a new book coming out in 26, and it was a really expansive collection, and it was tentatively about domestic issues, pandemic, domestic life, but also like what's happening politically. And I got it back from the editor, and they had like basically cut all the political stuff, all the pandemic stuff. And so it's just interesting, like I feel like sometimes those things maybe need to be put together on your own and put out there just for people to have. And I've considered that. In fact, now that who is reelected, I was hoping maybe that was a good sign that he was just going to go away. But I might try to just put that together on my own, those poems, because things about white supremacy and challenging white supremacy and everything that we've witnessed in the last 8 years or so is I address with the pen as well.
That's awesome. And then I think, talking about poetry is one thing. I would really love to hear some of your poetry. So if you would indulge us, I would love to, I looked through Earth is My Church, and you got just some really powerful tomes in there. So I wanted to see if you would maybe start with Kentucky is My Body.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I'm a Kentucky person, and this poem was written in a workshop with Rebecca Gale Howe, who's an amazing Kentucky writer in her own right. And this is a lot about who I am. Kentucky is my body. I am a graveyard, a farm converting crops to cement, a barn who lost the gift of tobacco, still stained with its scent. My aroma, sour mash, coal-burning power plants, wildflower blooms and natural gas, redbuds, magnolias. I am cigarette smoke and cancer, strip malls like sunspots on a burned back, another and another and another church, acres and acres churned up in the worship of money. Kentucky is my body. I am sweet water sinking through skin to limestone bone, a circulatory system pushing blood through veins, beyond dams and stents, clots of plaque, cans, and plastic. I am black lungs, bellowing the song my granny sung over a hot stove while mashing potatoes pulled from garden ground before any future conversion to cul-de-sac. I am a crooked spine of knobs and mountaintops, centered only by serpentine sway of back roads, my soul where front porch stories still echo. Kentucky is my body, and I am a gun rack, locked in a spare bedroom, where quilts lay spread across peaceful beds.
That's awesome. The that kind of combination, right, of the kind of adulation of the terrain, and then just the reality of the treatment of it, and then the folks who make up that that community as well, like really just really powerful. And that was nominated for Pushcart Prize, if I recall correctly.
It was.
I
Yeah.
don't know what a Pushcart
That's a
Prize
really
is.
old poem. It's a pretty prestigious individual poem prize. So, like any book that's published in a year or any journal, they can nominate poems from those books or those journals, and just getting nominated is an honor. Haven't won it yet. It's just good to be able to say that was recognized, and thrown into
that's
the
a
mix.
really awesome poem. And then the book is full of like great, powerful, expressive moments. But another one that I thought maybe you could share with us, the old Frankfurt Pike is a spine of mine.
Oh yeah. So 2-cent quick backstory. This poem was written as part of Walt Whitman's 186th birthday celebration, which is a really strange celebration year. But the woman who put this project together, the Good Gray Project, the idea was to pair an artist and a writer and to assign a time of day and a location. So I was hooked up with a photographer named Melissa Vandenberg. I don't know if you've run across her. She does a lot of political photography. Our assignment was Sunset, Old Frankfurt Pike, and then I had actually 2 locations. It was Old Frankfurt Pike, but then Capitol Bridge in Frankfurt, which leads up to the Capitol. Old Frankfurt Pike, the title comes from, I could probably drive that road with my eyes closed. It's probably my favorite road in central Kentucky. When I go home to Shelbyville, I take that road. It's one of those gorgeous old, beautiful places. And so that's where that comes from. And with that, I'll read this poem. Old Frankfurt Pike is a spine of mine. 1. Clash at the edge of scenic corridors. What is called progress is an insatiable force, threatens to move us in reverse. We make the choice, what to preserve, what to destroy, keep driving into the storm. I slow down enough to see herds of whitetail crossing, savannas forgotten, undulating pastures haunted by dead giants, rich remnants ruled by chinkapin and burr. 2. The elkhorn holds a secret. I am Pegasus, racing against darkness, my demise, sprinting down limestone-walled backstretches, awaken now as the afternoon dies. Foals nap near their mare mothers. Dream or déjà vu? Again, I am the hero, confined to the haphazard sprawl of civilization. I scrawl salvation strategy into the infinity of an empty page. 3. Our state house of weapons looks on, promises there will always be bullets, captives, victors. I capture its image from the shadows. Few remember the dead. Atop the palisade around the bend, tombs and monuments crown the Capitol. Its golden dome glimmers in gray dusk. It's the idea that watches over us. 4. Trees know no night. Where leaders are supposed to lead, the lanterns on the bridge are dim. One woolly mullen makes a home in a crack in a forgotten wall, does not care who calls charge. I neigh this night song beside a rising river. Oh, sycamores, standing here witness, more majestic than those towers, more commanding than this Capitol. Tell brother, sister, box elder, red cedar, to inherit the future with you. I fear we are too hungry for blood, too reliant on war, too committed to ignorance to join you.
I hope the trees take over. I really do. think it might be our only hope.
That's the gist.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. I got one more that I really like that I want you to read. I know we're going a little bit long, but yeah, if you guys will hang with us. But it's a bit of a shorter one. Savior.
Yeah, I never read this poem, Aaron, so I'm glad you pointed this one out. I think this is one that it kind of speaks maybe to the moment a lot of us are feeling, and I wanted to just point out that my poster tonight is, if not hope, then what? This poem's called Savior. Moon is my savior tonight, a sliver smiling silver through the living room window, urging me to grin or laugh like a hyena, even though I feel like crying. It has appeared there just in the last hour, perfectly in the corner of my eye. When pain pierces my heart sharp and spasms quake in my back, it falls quietly toward earth, across my mind, toward the farthest side of the world.
I feel like it's like perfect for the week, just like the week we've been through. Like that's a perfect poem.
Totally.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing your work with us.
Absolutely.
So you've got another book coming out in a year or so.
2026, which seems like a million years from now, but hey, that's the midterm election, so it'll be here before we know it. It'll be here before we know it.
Important to claw back some House seats here in Kentucky.
Totally.
And to bring Eric Scott Sutherland back on the show to share
anytime.
Awesome.
Anytime.
Any final thoughts for Eric, Chris, or Kimberly?
Hopefully I'll catch you at a pizza joint in Lexington sometime.
I'll probably see you at Dingbats.
Yeah.
And Eric, you said that you had listened to a lot of artists back in the day. Who was
Absolutely.
your favorite one that you would listen to that inspired you?
Oh my gosh.
There is one great rapper. He's no longer with us.
There's only one right answer also.
Look, when he was, eliminated from Earth, my friends and I, we cried for 3 days.
Oh yeah.
However, they use his lyrics today at different universities all around the country. You can choose to take Shakespeare, or you can choose to use this rapper. Yeah. So are we talking about the same rapper, Eric?
I go further back than you, hon. I think I know. You're talking about Tupac, right?
Yes, sir, I am, but I'm older than you. On the 18th of this month, I'll be 57.
Well, my favorite hip hop song is The Message.
Okay.
Broken glass everywhere. People pissing on the stairs like you just don't care. Yeah. I listen to all kinds of music. My family had a record collection, everything from Bob Dylan to Motown and everything in between. And I'm so blessed that I had that varied mixture of music. I wish you could find it on YouTube, Kimberly, because you'd be impressed. But I brought the house down one night at karaoke doing Prince.
What?
I did Kiss, and I had the house rocking.
Okay, I'm gonna go on YouTube and I'm gonna find that, and then Aaron's gonna.
I don't know if it's out there, but there used to be some footage, but I don't know if it exists anymore. But I wish it was out there because it would make me laugh.
I'm gonna search it out. If anybody can find something, it's me.
All right.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks for having me, y'all.
Thanks again. Absolutely appreciate it. Appreciate the work and the stories.
Appreciate you.
All right. So, Kimberly, can you close us out?
I sure can. I mean, this has been a great night. And Aaron, you didn't even get on my nerves tonight. It's a good night.
It's a rare night.
And look at the baby right there. Oh my God. Look at all that preciousness right there.
Hi.
Hi, baby. Too cute, too cute, too cute. This has been a great episode of Kernels of Truth tonight. And I learned a lot, and I could just listen to Eric like all night do his poetry. I mean, the way he reads it and everything, and his voice is kind of soothing, you know? So let me tell you this, the disclaimer first. How about this? Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State and organized as a 501c4. We are affiliated with the Indivisible Project, the Commonwealth Alliance for Voter Engagement, otherwise known as CAVE, and we are also proud members of the Forward Kentucky Network. Progress Kentucky's goal is always to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. Production of this episode 185. Oh my God, when we get to 200, we need to party like it's 1999 again, okay? We're at 185, and it was by Annabel tonight, and we are so proud of her. Thank you, Annabel. You always do a great job. And also, the music that you hear that we're always jamming to, it was wrote and performed by our very own Nate Orshan. You can find more information and listen to more of his music on, everybody say it with me, natosongs.com.
natosongs.com.
natosongs.com. And if you happen to miss our weekly live stream on Facebook or YouTube, do not fret, my pet, because we also have the audio podcast, and our show notes are always available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and just about wherever you're getting your podcast. And hey, when you do listen to the pod, please leave us a 5-star review. You know what it is. And wherever you are listening right now, go ahead on and share this video tonight. This was excellent. Eric Sutherland, great guest. I wish he could be on here every week, just say a poem for us. And Aaron, you did good tonight. And Chris, you were amazing tonight. Everybody, you made it through this week. It's Wednesday night. Hallelujah. You only got a couple of days till it's the weekend. So we'll be back here next week, same time, same bat channel. And have a great rest of the